Last Friday, the collect directed our minds to the Blessed Mother. O God, who in this season give your church the grace to imitate devoutly the Blessed Virgin Mary in contemplating the Passion of Christ. And I said to the children that there are two places where Luke talks about Mary pondering things in her heart. After the shepherds come to the manger and tell what the angels have said to them, Luke records that Mary kept these things and pondering them in her heart. And then after they brought Jesus to the temple, what we call the presentation, Simeon has his prophecy about the child and about Mary sharing in his sorrows. And again, Luke says that, or writes that Mary kept these things, pondering them in her heart. And we see this aspect of Mary, this contemplative. The church, many spiritual writers in the church have seen her in this way as a kind of at least semi-contemplative, and pondering the things that happen to Jesus, the things that are said about him. And so it's no big stretch to think that Mary pondered these events of Jesus' suffering, his passion, his death, and his resurrection. You can imagine that she turned to them often in her heart. And so the church invites us to do the same. And I asked the children, I said, what's an obvious way that we ponder the events of the Passion? And one of the girls immediately said the Stations of the Cross. You know, perfect answer. This is what we do in the Stations of the Cross. We ponder the events of the Passion. And you know there are many meditations on the stations. And some ponder the stations in terms of Jesus himself, some in terms of us, what it means for us, or how we can join him, different ways, you know. The sorrowful mysteries are another way where we ponder Jesus' passion, right? But the church gives us this week, this Holy Week, to ponder Jesus' passion, and gives us different aspects, stretches them out, you might say, you know, this last week of Jesus' life. And I thought this week, what I might do in helping you ponder the Passion, and certainly if your meditations, your own prayer takes you in a different direction, that's certainly fine. But this idea of imitating Jesus has been with me this week. And it occurred to me, you know, there are aspects of each day that kind of stand out maybe more than others. And in the collect today, the church draws our attention to Jesus' humility. And so I thought, first of all, to think about Jesus. How does Jesus' humility show up? And it shows in different ways, and I won't talk about all of them, but certainly in this reading from Paul, that Jesus emptied himself, you know. He relinquished his divine prerogatives. And also his obedience to the Father's will, even to death, you know. Not my will, but your will. Right? His idea of a servant. I come to you, he says, to the apostles, as one who serves, even though I deserve to be served. You know. And he never sought personal glory. We don't hear it today, but in John's gospel, in different ways, multiple times, he says, the Son does not act on his own. He only does what he sees the Father doing. Right? And what we can notice as we want to apply it to ourselves, first let's notice that Jesus' humility is not denigrating himself. Right? Even as being a servant, he doesn't, you might say, lower himself to our idea of servant. He raises the idea of servant. That servant is not something to be eschewed or ashamed of or avoided, but there's a mystery, a secret in being servant that he wants to show us. So he's not denigrating himself. He's allowing the divine to shine through. He's allowing God to shine through his actions as a human being. And so for us, we sometimes have odd ideas about humility, that humility means we're supposed to call ourselves dirt or something, But think about humility in this way, not as a way to denigrate yourself, but as a way to let others rise and to let God shine through you. Let the divine be seen through you and not you be seen, so to speak. And with that in mind, I just invite you to ponder, because that kind of humility would be imitating Jesus. That kind of humility would be following him. And so for this day of Passion Sunday, part of Jesus' passion we see is this humility. And I think the church invites us to imitate that humility of Jesus and invites us to consider what that means.